Welcome back, guys. It's MMA Unhinged, and I am joined by Zac Pauga. Zac, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Super excited. Excited to get back in there. Excited to be at my natural weight class. I'm feeling great.
Well, I just want to, before I go any further, I just want to thank you for joining in.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And even before I even go any further, how's your family doing?
They're doing great. Wife and kids are great. Getting big. My son just, is now officially potty trained. So he's a big boy. So it's going great. Everything's going great.
Awesome, good to hear. And so let's just jump right into it. You got a fight on February 18th against Wright. Um, so you fought at heavyweight for TUF. You've previously fought at like heavyweight. So how did you to get to the light heavyweight weight, and what prompted you to decide to go back down to 205?
Well, this was always the plan. I'm a light heavyweight fighter. It's my natural body weight. I just had the opportunity to get in the UFC through the Ultimate Fighter, and that's just you got to take the opportunities that show themselves to you. So the I was enjoying life. I got to fight at heavyweight for about a year, and it I was like 250 pounds when I signed this contract. So it's taken me, about a month or two to get down within striking range where I'll cut the weight, but everything's going good. Everything's on track. I'm doing great.
That's sweet, man. And during your now fighting that light heavyweight during this camp, what are things, or in the past, what are things you've noticed in camp during light heavyweight and training at heavyweight?
So the pace of a light heavyweight fight is just different. Like it's easy, and I'm sure heavyweights think that, oh, heavyweight fights harder, they're bigger, they hit harder, all this stuff. But there's more exchanges, it's faster, it's just a different pace. And so it's like a lot gets made of me training with Curtis Blades, and he's a great training partner and a great friend. But when I'm getting ready for light heavyweight fights, I don't actually go with him that much because it gets me ready for a pace that I'm not going to fight at against a light heavyweight. So I go with other lighter guys to get ready for that pace. And then my style's different. Like for the people that watched me on the show, I was kind of flighty, like tried to maximize my speed and athleticism. That's not how I like to fight. Like I like to bully people, push them up against the cage, and that's what I get to do when I at light heavyweight.
Yeah, and talk about something you train with over at Team Elevation. Who do you normally train with, and who are you training with during this camp?
So the big names over there, are Curtis Blades, Justin Gaethje, Kamaru Usman. Those are the big names. This specific camp I did alongside Devin Clark, who's fighting this weekend in the UFC. And so we did our camps together, and I did most of my rounds with him. He's a light heavyweight fighter, um, a similar kind of bouncy style. So most of my camp and most of my rounds were done with Devin Clark.
Sorry, I think I lost you there.
Oh, sorry. What, did you hear any of it?
I think I heard half of what you said. You got up to the guys you were training with, and you're training with Devin Clark.
Yeah, so most of my camp and rounds were done with Devin Clark. He fights this weekend in the Apex as well. So we got to do our camps together and do most of our live rounds against each other. So it was great to have another high level light heavyweight fighter to do almost all my rounds with. So that's who primarily most of my camp was done with Devin Clark as a training partner.
Now, previously in the past, a lot of guys I've spoke with who were in there in Colorado, They talk about like the close knit group that you guys possess. Would you concur with that?
Absolutely. It's, I can't speak for any other teams because I haven't been on any other team other than Team Elevation, but we're, especially in your little weight class groups, like the heavyweights and light heavyweights, we're a super tight group. And you got to be. We see each other twice a day, 6 days a week. Like, if you don't like the people you're spending your time around with, it's going to be a miserable time. And yeah, like me and Curtis has brought me up in this game, so he's definitely a great friend of mine and a great training partner.
And talk about training with those heavyweights. What's it like being hit by a heavyweight versus a light heavyweight?
It's definitely different. You can't play too many games at heavyweight. Heavyweight MMA kind of another reason why I'm cutting down. Not that light heavyweights hit soft, but with those tiny gloves on, man, and these guys are cutting weight to make 265. Skill almost doesn't play a factor sometimes. Sometimes you just get touched and go out. And the best fighter doesn't always win at heavyweight. And it's a rough game at those heavier weights.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what the talk has been with John Jones going from light heavyweight to heavyweight. As much as he's very skilled, and maybe Dana White thinks he's the greatest ever. There's a lot of that talk. Is he gonna be able to take hits from a guy up there like that Frenchman?
I was super interested in John versus Francis or John versus Curtis. Those are both very intriguing matches. I think he smokes Cyril. I don't like. Gon hasn't shown he knocks people out with skill and volume, but he hasn't shown one punch KO power, and he has shown that he doesn't know how to wrestle. So I think John kind of, as long as John's been in the gym for the last 3 years, I think he kind of smokes Cyril.
Yeah, and I think, like, given a lot of things that people have been talking about on leading up to this fight, they're talking about Cyril's movement, how he moves like a middleweight. Well, that's great, but that only gets you so far, against maybe guys like I don't know who the last guy he fought from New Zealand, but
Tuivasa.
Tuivasa, yeah. And I think that only gets you so far until you match up with someone with the same height, skill, or maybe even more skill. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes. But enough about them. We're talking about you here. Now, without game plan, what has kind of been the main focus of this fight camp?
The main focus is just bringing my best skills to the cage and kind of letting them shine through. Jordan Wright's kind of wild, throws crazy kicks, but he's never seen a judge's scorecard one way or another. Like, he gets finished or he finishes you. That's how this dude fights, and I'm not trying to play that game. I'm going out here to win. I want to showcase a little bit of my ground game, grind him out a little bit. I'm not going out here to just get in firefights with him. So just been focused on tight techniques and tight fundamentals and being the clean technical fighter in this fight.
And I mean, you kind of already spoken a little bit about his style, but what's your main thoughts on Jordan Wright? I mean, have you had a chance to watch some of his other fights?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of his film, and I've seen I try not to read the comments too much on posts, but I've seen the internet rumblings, right? But this is a dangerous fight. He is a skilled fighter at putting people away, and his back's against the wall. Like, he's on a bit of a skid. Another loss to a newcomer, he might be out of the UFC. So he's fighting for his job. That's a dangerous man to fight. So it's, dealing with his skills that he has and respecting them, but also implementing my game plan.
And what is it you're going to bring to this fight that's going to make you successful against a guy like Jordan Wright?
A pace and a pressure. He's not cutting weight anymore for this fight, but he's had cardio issues at 185, and we're going to test and see how his cardio does at 205.
Sorry, I think I lost that.
You there?
Yeah, sorry. I think I lost the last part of what you said about. I think I just lost that last part you said.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, he's had cardio issues at 185, and now he's not cutting weight anymore, hoping that's going to solve the issues. And we're going to find out. And I'm going to put it on him with the pace and pressure and the weight of a real 205er.
Awesome. And now this fight is going to be at the Apex again. Are you kind of bummed that it can't be in front of a full crowd, considering that pretty much the entire world in sports is behind the COVID era?
So I wish it was in front of a crowd because I like fighting in front of a crowd. I love the energy of the crowd, but the Apex feels like my backyard. I lived there for 6 weeks on the Ultimate Fighter. I've cornered Curtis there like 8 times. I'll be there cornering Devin this weekend. So, I would like to get on a pay-per-view card in the future sometime, but I'm super comfortable with fighting in the Apex.
And does it give you kind of any relief knowing that at least you can hear your coaches without having the crowd yelling in your ear?
So I turned pro during COVID, so I've never really had an issue with that. I haven't had to deal with fighting in front of giant crowds, and maybe you can't hear your coaches. So that's not an issue I've run into yet, but I hope to have that problem someday.
For sure, for sure. Now, I want to talk about your teammate here. He's going to be fighting on the same card you are. He's actually going to be headlining it, the Sandman. And I think he has such a huge fight ahead of him. I mean, tough opponent, Cheeto Vera. What do you feel? Obviously, you want him to win. He's your teammate. But what are the keys to victory for this fight against a guy like Cheeto Vera?
Corey just has to do his game and stay super tight and technical. Cheeto kind of like the book's kind of been written on Cheeto. He's kind of a slow starter. He plods around, but he can put your lights out at any second. And that's just what Corey has to recognize. I think Corey's more skilled, more technical, faster. He just can't get lulled into sleep by Cheeto and then cracked.
Well, and not to say anything against your teammate, Cheeto Vera it's shown that he's gotten better in each fight. It seems like. What do you think that plays into factor in this fight against the Sandman?
Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to get better. We're all trying to get better, and it's great that he's improved in front of everybody on a huge stage. But I think Corey's going to be too much for him to handle.
For sure. Yes, a few more for you, and I'll let you go here. But we're in February, so in a perfect world, how many fights would you like, or could you have this year?
So obviously, I'm not trying to look past Jordan Wright in this fight, but in a perfect world, this is my livelihood, my business. I'm on a long contract from the Ultimate Fighter, from the show. And I would like to try and burn this contract out and fight at least 4 times this year. Quick turnarounds, quick fights. That's what I would like to do personally.
Excellent. Well, Zach, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to come on here and talk a bit about yourself, your team, and your upcoming fight. I'd love to have you back on with MMA Unhinged, and good luck on February 18th.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Well, you take